Hey YouTube, it's Excel time. So I read some of your feedback from the parts of the comments. That sounds weird. So I read some of your feedback about my idea for Raptors Grapple, and I decided to actually come up with 3 different ways that Raptors Grapple could work, and did the math to basically calculate how good or bad it will be, and then gave an analysis on each one. So yeah, someone else also wrote a comment. What the fuck is going on? Oh, there you go. Someone else also wrote a comment whether or not I script some of my videos, and I explained that I normally take notes and I just ad lib based off of my notes. So this is an example of the kind of notes I would take on an Excel spreadsheet that I would then summarize for you guys in a video. I hope this also explains my videos are now like 20 minutes long whenever I do explain an Excel spreadsheet. It could be explained really quickly. It's because I'm trying to explain to you guys what the numbers actually mean in a practical sense. I will also open up a PowerPoint sheet I'll be using later on to try and explain some strategy things. So let me just quickly set up some of that basics while you guys are staring at the Excel spreadsheet. I need to set up my Raptor circles as always, and I'll change the screen when it's ready. So this is the original idea of Pounce to pin. The idea being that you fill up the slots of the dinosaur, and when you fill them up, you pin them if your weight exceeds their weight. And then I did some calculations based on stamina to basically work out how much stamina would the dinosaur need to lose if stamina is equal to a certain percentage of weight. And I did all of this, and then worked out how good one raptor would be with Pounce to pin. So we'll start from the top, right? So Galley is one raptor to pin it, but technically speaking, you can have infinite raptors because of the way that pinning now works. Multiple raptors can join in on a pin. So if you could fit as many raptors as possible, effectively you would reach the point where it costs 0 stamina to actually pin something because it would die instantly. But of course there is a limit. But this is just here just to let you guys know. But I'll go through what each of these things mean, and then I'll explain it in more detail. Please, correct. Thank you. So obviously we have the target, then we have the target weight. I had to rewrite this so I could do why can't I? Weird. I can't see the. Okay, you can see the equations up there. So there are quite a few equations being done to calculate stuff. So anyways, so let's take Paki for example. Paki is 500 kilograms. You can fit 3 raptors. The weight of the raptors on top of it will reach 1,350, and this is how much damage it will take. The damage the Paki will receive if the raptors dump their entire stamina pool into that dinosaur. I calculated this using the galley, in which it took about 87% stamina to kill a galley. So therefore 87% stamina on a pin is doing 425 damage. You can then extrapolate this to 100% damage, which is 488 damage. And then 8 raptor pin is therefore doing 3,908 damage. In theory, right? That is the theoretical number that we can reach, which is kind of nutty when you think about it. That's not bad. Effectively, that means that depending on how Pounce to pin works from now and in the future, if the Pounce to pin damage is the same as Raptor's pin damage, which it probably will be, yeah, anything up to about almost 4 tons can just be absolutely deleted, which some people may say is broken, but I'm going to explain why I don't think it's that broken, but why it may need to be tuned in certain ways to avoid certain situations. So we have that. So then what I did is I then worked out the overkill damage. This here is a calculation that's taking here, this number here is 1% of this number, which basically means 1% stamina, divided by 3 for the amount of raptors latched on. And of course we have the overkill damage by the damage we're doing and the amount of damage we actually need to do to them, right? You can work out that. So E3, 3E, then of course you have 3B, which is B, 3 Paki, overkill damage, divided by 3 for 3 raptors, that's Pounce slots, divided by 1% after the brackets, because the brackets get done first. So I'm teaching you guys some maths here. Everything in the brackets that gets done first. So the first bracket here is the damage we are doing minus by the damage that we actually need to do, brackets, divided by 3 raptors, because 3 Pounce slots, brackets, divided by 1% of the damage that we need to do, which then gives us 95%. Which therefore means with 3 raptors pinning a Paki, each raptor only needs to use 34% of its stamina. I then looked through each of these and worked out what the most efficient dinosaurs to kill with Pounce to pin are. So obviously, Paki is the first one, followed by Tenno, followed by Dino, followed by Carno, and then finally Serrado. Despite the fact Serrado only has 3 Pounce slots, you actually need to dump almost your entire stamina pool to kill a Serrado. I then worked out the stamina waste to live. What does this mean? After looking at the Serrado value, I was like, cool, well, if the Serrado was able to waste some of the Raptor's stamina, even if it does get pinned, could it actually survive the pin, get the Raptors down to 0% stamina, and then just start mauling them to death? So you'd need to waste 11%, just over 11% of the stamina for each Raptor. So if you can make them lose maybe 20% stamina, you could survive the Pouncer pin and then just maul them to death. So there's always that. Paki would have to waste 95% of the Raptor stam. But Paki does have the ability to fracture, so there's always that. And then, of course, for these two guys, you get negative numbers. The reason why you get negative numbers is because it takes that much stamina to do it. Each Raptor needs to put in over 100% of its stamina to kill a Dibble or a Stego with Pounce to pin. So you need to make up the damage somewhere else. However, depending on how Pounce to pin works, this might not matter. And I'll explain. We then, of course, have my idea of, well, what happens if you can't pin a Stego because its weight is way bigger than the weight you could achieve with Raptors? Well, then I thought about stamina. Did that as your stamina would lower? An idea being that each percentage of stamina is worth a percentage of weight, and as the stamina decreases, how much? So first I worked out how many Raptors you'd need to pin if a stamina was equal to 0.5 of your weight. So here we have what that looks like. 0.5% of Galley's weight is 2.125 kilograms, for example. Whereas for Stego, it's 30 kilograms. That makes sense. You know, you guys can do that mental math in your head. And then what percentage of stamina you'd need to reach to be pinned. So for all of these dinosaurs, it's 100, because you can exceed it. For Dibble, the Dibble would need to waste 35% of its stamina to do it, and it's impossible with Stego. You just couldn't. I even then worked out the calculation. It would need to waste 125% of its stamina, meaning that if stamina is equal to the weight by 0.5, you can't pin Stegos. So it can't be that. So then I did 0.5, and I worked out that Dibble would have to drop to 43% stamina, and a Dibble would have to waste, a Dibble would have to get to 56.6, so 57 stamina, and the Stego would have to get to 17% stamina. But by then, the Stego was almost dead, so maybe not. Then I did stamina is equal to exactly one weight, and then we get a Dibble needs to get to 67.5% stamina, and a Stego to 37. I think that 0.75 is perfectly reasonable. In my opinion, getting a Dibble below half to pin it and getting a Stego down low to pin it, in my opinion, I think that's fine. It becomes more of a killing move. But this is more useful for if it's not meant to be a killing move, maybe use midway through the fight. I think this is reasonable given the fact that I told you guys earlier that you can drain a lot of a Stego stamina if it bucks. Right? And we may now have a reason to buck depending on certain things. So this is just a stamina idea. Then we have assuming one Raptor. So if you're a Galley fighting a Raptor, you're going to get pinned. If you're a Paki with this stamina idea, if you drain 10% of the Paki stamina, you pin it. And then you can now go down the list. You can see the Stego needs to get down to 7.5% stamina to have like just a couple of swings remaining and you can pin it. But you won't do that much damage. You only do the 488. But it's just there for fun. This is just here just for funny maths. So let's explain what's good and bad about this. And to explain this, I'm going to put the text on the screen so you guys can just read it. And I'll try and ad-lib some of the ideas I remember properly. Because the main thing we need to talk about is the idea of what the Isle considers to be good and what it explains to be bad when it comes to mechanics that kill people. Because you may now say, well, Turkish Delight, you said that these mutations were broken, but clearly getting three Serrados, getting 3 Raptors to instantly pin a Serrado is also kind of broken. And I will agree with you, but it's in line with the dev's vision. A Raptor slamming into a Carno slamming into a Raptor with a charge, if it hits the head, instantly kills the Raptor. Dino lunge, you're basically dead. Rex's pin, when it comes out, probably dead. Allo's pin, a lot of things probably fucking dead. Stego swing, you're fucking dead. Right, there are attacks in the game that just operate the idea of you don't want this thing to happen, so you're going to try to avoid it from happening, and that's how you beat that dinosaur, by avoiding the big kill shot. The thing with Raptor's kill shot is not a lot of people really know good strategies to defend against Raptors Pounce that doesn't involve camping. You may think, how is that the case? But it's true. Because I've done things against Raptors I don't see anyone else doing whenever I played against Raptor. So obviously the first question is now, how do we counterplay against an ambush? So there is obvious counterplay for avoiding the ambush and staying vigilant. However, it takes away from the skill of your attacker. As much as you are trying to avoid an ambush, the Raptors are trying to get an ambush. Furthermore, you can turn your head to stop one pounce and even position yourself such that only one side is open, and the Raptors have to run around. And I will actually now change this to display capture so that I can move towards my PowerPoint screen whenever it's needed. So to explain what I mean here, I'm going to put my microphone down so my voice will change a little bit. Say, for example, this is your target. It can be any dinosaur. And you have 3 Raptors waiting for an ambush, right? And you have 3 pound slots. Let's say 1 here, 1 at the back, 1 on the side. For the Raptors to get an instant perfect ambush on you, you need 1 from here, 1 from here, and 1 on your back. As you can see, if you were trying to avoid a ambush, let's just paint the screen really quickly. And we're going to call this a bush. Just trust me. Just trust me on this. This is the bush, right? So you can't see these Raptors. This Raptor cannot easily get this back pounce unless, of course, it's in an angle for it, which means for it to get it needs to be going in from behind you, or maybe in from this angle, meaning that this Raptor is going to land slightly after this one and this one. So what you can actually do, and this is a strategy that Dinos used to use, so I'm going to duplicate slide. So what Dinos used to do, and they still do, at least I do it whenever I play Dino, and this was actually a tip I got from an old stress tester. He was a French man who used to post videos. He stopped posting videos now. What Dinos used to do is they used to wait on the side of the river, like this, and they'd wait for a Dino to come in, and then they'd boom, slam into you. So what this guy suggested was, if it's only 1 Dino you have to worry about, you swim in the middle of the river, and when that Dino comes to ambush you, you swim to the other side and walk out. And now you have a head start. That Dino can't afford to come after you, and then you could just log, right? If it's 2 Dinos, well, now you're in a different situation. You want to avoid the gangbang, right? So what you do now, if you're fearing 2 Dinos, you swim slightly closer to one side of the river, such that you can see this Dino and swim past it, and this Dino's on your ass. And you could even just go swim past it, get onto land this way, and this Dino's behind you, and this Dino's coming up here. But effectively, you've now made it temporarily into a 1v1. You see? It's not the best solution. You can also just swim in the middle and try and just blitz through, but that's it. The idea that I'm trying to suggest is an idea that you avoid the insta-death, and now you have a slow and painful death, but it's a death that you can try and avoid, right? Because you're not instantly dead. You can try and play around and use your skills and your knowledge to try and avoid that scenario. So now we draw back into this. If you're walking down a trail where there could be bushes, you have a 50-50% chance of picking the bush that only has 1 Raptor and not 2. You see what I mean? Take that chance. So if you're walking on this bush here, when they come to ambush you, this one latches on first. Right? So now let's group these 2 objects together. Now explain to you my counterplay towards Raptor pouncing. These 2 Raptors are now trying to run in. Raptors cannot pounce you from the head. They can only pounce you from the sides there. So what you do is you instantly rotate. This guy who was going for a side pounce now has to reorientate himself for a back pounce. But what you do is that you now rotate with this guy. So wherever he goes, you're pushing this Raptor that you're bucking towards him. And you're trying to keep your head faced towards this guy. So effectively, you are constantly rotating and finagling, such as the Raptor is pointing towards one of them, and your head is pointing to the other. And you can kind of move around as well to ensure that both Raptors are kind of in an arc like this. And you're constantly staying vigilant where these 2 Raptors are. And when this Raptor is fucked off and basically has to dismount, you are now in a defensive. You're now in a defensive position versus 3 Raptors from an ambush. Right? If you consider a Kano ambush instead on something like a Cerrado, the Kano slams into your head, does like 50% of your health, and now you need to tussle with a Kano. You know, the same way, you want to try and avoid this happening, is that for Kano, you'd walk in the middle. So you have that extra small, like, half a second to react, maybe get a tail hit instead of a head hit, or even a body hit is better than getting a tail hit. Or no, a body hit is better than getting a headshot, because you still get knocked over, but at least you took less damage. That's how you kind of want to think about it, right? That's one idea for counterplay. Another form of counterplay for raptors would be in an open field. Let's move our bushes out the way. Let's make you a bit smaller. Say, for example, you're in an open field. Raptors Pounce costs stamina, right? If you start running, these raptors have to follow you. And by the time they get to you, they may not have enough stamina to actually get a meaningful pounce on you. But you also have low stamina. But now you're in a position where the raptors can't do much to you, but you might be able to do something to the raptors. But make sure when you're running away from raptors that you check behind you to make sure that they're not trotting. Because they're trotting, they will still have stamina. And if they are trotting, you stop running, and then they'll probably start running. And when they get close, you start running again until you reach. Oh damn it! Until you reach something with line of sight blockers, like the start of a forest. And now you have two options. Hate that so much. You have two options. You can choose to wait in the bushes, pretending that you could even like leave, loop back round, and come in. So when a raptor comes out, you just go boom, slam into that raptor. That might even kill on certain dinosaurs. That can actually generate a kill, or generate a thing where that raptor takes so much damage that it has to leave the fight, right? But obviously with perks like gastronomic regeneration, they can leave the fight, maybe come back, and these two keep you busy for that one to come back. Now you've reset the fight, so you can take that risk. Or B, you can take the line of sight blockers and now do a juke without a read. So a juke with a read is something like this, where a raptor goes this way, but you know he's going this way, so you go this way, and then maybe you go back this way, expecting the raptor to go back. You've made a read. Now, a juke without a read is when you don't know what the raptors are even doing in the first place. Because you have a line of sight blocker, they can't see you, you can't see them. So you can maybe run this way to get your footprints there, and then take a juke and go this way around. So the raptors will come here, they'll sniff your footprints, they'll stop, they'll walk, they'll sniff the blood this way. Maybe they get too overexcited and start running this way. And that buys you just a few extra seconds, right? And for dinosaurs that are traveling at like 10, 20 meters per second, a few extra seconds means that you make some insane distance. And all you need to do is make sure that you can keep running or making distance for about a minute. Because the bleed timer is about 1:14 currently. So if you can just last that 1:14, if you got bitten, your bleed will be finished, you'll be on low bleed, and then you just try your best to escape. So there always is a way out of this three-man pin scenario. Never mind the fact that you can just position your head to stop pounces. And then once you do get pounced, use the hostage strategy. That's what I call it. You just use a hostage. You say, you offer the raptors a trade. You say, I will let you get bleed damage on me, but I will not let you pin me to the ground. And you keep that raptor hostage. And they know. So if they're smart, they just won't bother. They'll just stay back. And you just let that stamina run out of buck, and you slowly start walking away. And these raptors start walking. Then that raptor dismounts, and this raptor dismounts and then goes away off to heal. Then you just keep moving away, just keep walking away. And these two raptors have to come towards you. And certain dinosaurs like Tenno, for example, have really, really good ult bites, so they can ult bite around you. Paki, of course, has his slam. You can threaten with the slam. There's the different things you can do. That's not to say that the mechanic of Pounce the Pin isn't strong. It is a very, very strong mechanic. But there are ways to get around it by smart play. Furthermore, with certain ways that you can introduce Pounce the Pin, you can create situations where you can actually use the Pounce the Pin against the raptors. But that's the idea, right? Is that you want to avoid the Pounce the Pin, but obviously countering a dinosaur, like for example, water counters Dino's ability. Dino can't function with its hallucinations if it's near water. So by going near water, you've countered Dino's ability, but the ability just doesn't work. This is countering in the sense of I avoid instant death and can stay in the game, and every second that you are still in the game means a second for your opponent to mess up and for you to capitalize. But it's a double-edged sword, because you could also mess up. So as long as you stay vigilant and you stay calm, you can do things like that. Furthermore, with hitting a raptor out of cover, bang, you hit this raptor, it gets injured, it runs away. one thing I've noticed quite a lot of raptors do is that they see you doing damage to a raptor as you getting further along in the point scoreboard. So let's example that there's points. You're worth 3 points, EG's raptor's worth 1 point. By you almost killing this raptor and doing a shit ton of damage, you've maybe gotten like 80% of a point. And these raptors will now go, oh damn, we need to catch up. And they'll start flinging themselves at you. And you can now abuse this. Now it's 2 raptors. You can turn your head towards one, try and alt-bite the other, play around them before this guy comes back. And then you get into this little loop, right? So obviously without a perk like gastronomic regeneration, this guy will have to go off a heal, and this one will have to go off and heal, and it's just a 1v1, and he can't pounce you. So, but obviously perks like gastronomic regeneration means that in a group we can just coordinate such that we keep 2 of us around you and not attacking, and the third one goes off the heal, and then we just reset. And we'll just constantly reset over and over and over again, and it won't be too fun. I don't really feel like talking about mutations anymore until we get more information about what the final state of mutations are going to be. Because I could be completely wrong about what my assumption of max value is, and maybe the mutations are going to be way more manageable than they are. Right, why is this oval shaped? Who cares? Anyways, back to this. If you rank fast enough, here's basically me trying to explain what I just explained right there. And obviously there's the idea of playing for space. What is playing for space? Let's make this more of a square. Playing for space is the idea that every single human being has a reaction speed. Actually, let's not do that. Let's borrow this one. Make it bigger. Every dinosaur has a range where its attacks can land. Right? Standing still. Let me just group these 2 together. So I'm trying to describe strategy to you guys currently. You know? So this is the range where you can attack. Right? You then have your reaction range. Because maybe you have a really good reaction speed. And why it doesn't add too much to the range, it adds just a little bit to the range. Meaning that if raptors are trying to bait you, they know the range. Send this back. There you go. They know the range that they need to enter, or they could be in danger. So what raptors will try to do is that they'll try to bait you in, going close to the range, and then ducking back out. If you understand what the range of your dinosaur is, you won't get baited by this. Unless they really, really go in. Sometimes I do baits like this, where I'll actually go diagonally. I'm out of range, I'm in range, and I'm out of range. And it's up to you to try to react to that small window here, where I'm technically in range. And if I can condition you to get used to me being here, I can then just go boom, like that. Just go in, 45-degree pounce. And you won't be able to react to that. But keep in mind of your range, right? Because with this, you can now play for space. Say, for example, there's a raptor right along the outside of your range. Push him. Push him forward. So now he has to run away here. The other raptors, who are also outside of your range to begin with, they're going to be circling. Once this one gets pushed, the range changes. So they may actually overcommit, and then you can now drift back, punish. You see what I mean? But this is what playing for space means. It's trying to get the raptors into your area, which they're going to do naturally, trying to bait you, but it's about forcing them into your area. You can actually pressure raptors quite heavily, because when you're chasing someone, this guy around the back will think, I can get a back pounce. If you're a dinosaur like a dibble who can just drift and just slam, that's huge. Like, that's a really good punish for you to use. So bear that in mind. Just always bear that in mind. There's always things that you can do. We can also see how much stamina you need to waste from the raptors to survive the pin damage. And I've said that for something like Packy, it's not doable. You have to waste too much stamina. For Cerrado, it is more doable. As we see with Cerrado, you need to waste a lot of stamina. That's 88, almost 89% stamina you need to waste to kill the Cerrado, right? Which leads into a very, very big weakness of Pounce the Pin, which is why I think it is fair for it to be so strong, because the weaknesses of Pounce the Pin are huge, and you could actually end up dying regardless of you killing the thing. So, what is that? So, if you're able to communicate, the biggest weakness towards Raptor is groups. Always has been groups. Because if you are pounced on here, and we have a teammate, if you're pounced on, instead of bucking, your teammate comes and pushes them off and hits them. Right? You see? Now you can't, even if you try to get the 3-man pin, while you're pinning him, the teammate comes, hit. And then the Raptors are weak. They have to piss off. And now you protect your teammate by circling around his range. You see? Because by you, what a lot of people do is that they'll go right next to their friend. Right next, no, don't. Circle just outside of the range. Because what you do here, like this, is the raptors now can't enter in through this area here. They have to go in from the back. And it's easier for your teammate to react to the raptors in front of him rather than the raptors behind him. And this guy can just start moving counterclockwise like this and protect those side bits that are hard to spot. And this guy can just focus on the raptors in front of him. And then you can slowly move, Z-walking, off to somewhere that's a bit more defensible and do that. But obviously this then leads into camping, which is, well, if I see 3 raptors, I could just start camping straight away. I'm trying to encourage people not to do that because Pounce to pin is not going to care about camping if it works the way I think it will work. Because if you're a Serato, even if you're camping, 3 raptors grab a hold of you before you can knock them off, and then you die. But if you have 2 Seratos, haha, you're safe. You see? And if you're playing a dinosaur and you're versing raptors and you have a group, try not to chase the raptors, but instead protect your group. Right? Try and protect your group and set up your group mates to fend off against the raptors. Because if you try fending off against the raptors, your group mates are going to hurt you, and they won't have the same critical thinking as you do of when to pull out, when to push in, when to do strategy. Right? They won't. Which is why I've always wanted to try and increase the skill of survivor IL players in this game, such that we can avoid, balance the decisions that cause very, very unfun gameplay loops. Because what happens is, once you remove the skilled aspects of the game, you only have the very, very cheesy aspects of the game left, right? If that makes sense. In which is stuff like camping, for example, or just everyone plays Rex. Neither of these options are very, very fun. So we have the strategy of running away, because raptors kill you with stamina. Overall, I personally feel that my idea for Pounce to pin is alright. I feel like the devs want to make it less of an issue. They could remove the back Pounce slot. However, I feel that this is not needed. If Pounce to pin is strong, I feel that the devs should buff ducking instead of nerfing Pounce again. This means that Raptor Ambush is strong versus a solo target, but in a fight in a field has less chance to cause a pin in 30 seconds in. So effectively, Pounce to pin is a very, very strong thing versus a target that's all by itself, and you're able to pin it, right? If it has a teammate, then you can't fight it. The second it has a group, you cannot kill them with Pounce to pin. Instead, you kill them with bleed. Which is why I'm going to talk later on about making Pounce to pin tied to bleed isn't a good idea, right? So, there is also another hidden counter in the Isle Raptors, which is competition. Carno's Seratos or Dibbles are able to ruthlessly dispatch Raptors if they're able to get the jump on them. Because you have to remember, if Raptors become a problem, yeah, say for example, this is a Carno. If Raptors start walking around and getting cocky out in a field, this is perfect prime target for Carno to just slam straight through. You see? Like, there is also counterplay between the things that want to kill Raptors. You see? So there's always that as well. Furthermore, obviously the idea of avoiding Raptors is also really, really huge. But I say that you have to remember that as smart as you are as avoiding Raptors, there will be Raptors just as smart as you who are good at finding people and sneaking up to them. Right? So you have to remember that. It's a bit like saying, like, to avoid Herreras, you just look up at a tree. But whenever I play Herrera, I always make sure that I have a line of sight blocker and that I make sure that I stay vigilant to spot you before you get close to my tree, and then I move out of sight. So by the time you get to the tree, I'm not there. And when you start eating or doing whatever, I'll sneak around and then launch myself at you. And it gives me that extra, like, second to land that hit, which is why it's huge. So, my fear is that the community will get ambushed by raptors or get in a fight with raptors and get pounced while running to a camping spot and get killed instead of adapting. Right? Because if you see the raptors and you start running to a camping spot and they're all faster than you, they all latch on, and then you get pinned. And even you get to your camping spot, but your stamina's dropped just enough for the raptors to pin you, and then you get pinned. You see? Because the raptors will be able to pounce you faster than you can knock them off on the terrain. You see? Especially if they get the back pounce first. Right? So it's difficult. Which is why I want to try and tell you guys how to do it, so you guys can tell other people. So when Raptor Pounce to Pin comes out, you guys know the counter strategies I've come up with for it. So you guys can test them out and see if they work, as I will be doing the exact same thing. and hopefully we can spread the word to other people so they can counter raptors as well. And if everyone in the community now knows how to deal with Pounce the Pin, it won't be as much of an issue. How long has this video been going on for? 30 fucking minutes. Cool. Remember, raptors weak versus groups. It needs to slowly bleed them out or focus one team member. I believe that in a group, raptor should be able to take down a solo creature rather than have the drawn out fight where it camps for 20 minutes and slowly bleeds to death. That's my idea. So this is the stamina idea and the counters towards stamina. We then move into what I say is a very, very wild idea, which is Pounce to Pin activates when your opponent is either A, not bucking, or B, is unable to buck. Meaning that if a raptor pounces you, you have to buck them. Right? So what is the idea? The idea would be you are a Serrano, a raptor pounces you, and you now start running to that bucking spot, but you have to be bucking at the exact same time. And then the other raptors come. But then what we effectively have is a redo of the camping situation, but unlike, it basically is the same thing as a camping situation, in that we can't really now pounce you again. You've effectively survived this version of Pounce the Pin. Except if all of the raptors manage to jump onto you, and they manage to drain enough of your stamina, such that because remember, the more raptors you have on, the slower the target moves. So if they're all able to latch onto you, by the time you get to the camping spot, because you have to be forced to buck, you may end up losing. This version of Pounce the Pin is effectively the anti-camping version of Pounce the Pin. This Pounce the Pin is designed for efficiency of use that is easy to explain, right? And it also puts all of the control of Pounce the Pin into the raptor's hands. It is up to them to control how many slots they use. It is up to them to decide how much stamina they make you lose before they pin you. It's up to them to keep an eye on your stamina. It's up to them to try and counter your counters. In this one, it is only up to you. All the raptors have to do is pounce you and play like normal. But it's up to you to prevent their Pounce to Pin. You see? And obviously I'd keep the values the same of the damage, because that's just the pin damage. And all this stuff is just stuff left over from the previous one, because I just copy-pasted everything. Hence, you cannot just run straight to a camping spot with a raptor on you. You will instead have to be bucking and running, which in turn will use more stamina. When your stamina reaches 0, you will also be pinned, because you can't buck anymore. This puts more importance into avoiding the raptors pouncing you, and ensuring that you whittle the raptors' numbers down so that you can sustain the fight. As with the previous day, it is required that the pouncey manages their stamina such that they can continue to buck if needed. Furthermore, more agile creatures, it places importance into avoiding and dodging the pouncers. Unlike the first example, running away is less advantageous, as you will reach 0 stamina and the raptors will take it in turns to sit down and recover, while you are unable to sit as you will be attacked. So effectively, if you run away and the raptors run after you and drain all of their stamina as well, they just get one of their raptors to sit down and the other two just circle around you. And if you try and sit and recover your stam, they bite you, right? You can't take the risk. So effectively, you're in a lose-lose situation if you try and just run away. Meaning that against this style of raptor Pounce to Pin, you want to just avoid the raptors and hide away from them. Really, that's what you want to do. And obviously, the other counterplays are the same as what I spoke about earlier on. With this idea, the Pouncey can control when you get pinned, and it is more on you controlling the raptors rather than the raptors controlling the tempo of the fight. Hence, it is a skill issue if you die, unfortunately. It's up to you to control the tempo of the fight to ensure that the raptors don't just all get on you, right? Because obviously, what I've created here is a very, very strong version of Pounce to Pin. It's very, very strong. But I'll explain why I think it needs to be strong again later on. And part of it is to do with the other methods of killing raptors have. Bleed is a long time to kill, right? Pounce to Pin is short time to kill. If you make it so that Pounce to Pin also takes a long time, why would I bother? Why would I bother, for example, wasting 89% of my stamina to kill a Serrano when I can stay at 100% stamina and not waste 89% of it and just bleed it out to death? You see? So you need to give the raptors that opportunity. And obviously, furthermore, groups are really, really strong. Effectively, what you actually create is, if you choose to not make Pounce to Pin strong, you create a mechanic that the raptors will never use. Furthermore, it's only useful against solo targets, and all people need to do is just, be instantly camping an object, or just instantly be in a group, and then Pounce to Pin just doesn't do anything. right? I want to have a mechanic for Pounce to Pin where if they ambush you, they get this huge reward. You know, that's my idea. So this could be an issue that people don't like, as you are now forced to buck this idea to fight the raptors. Even if you do see them, oh yeah, this is the idea that you are now forced to fight them if you see them in a field. So you see them, they see you. So if you run and they find you, you'll have no stamina. And there's also an idea that you might not like it because you are forced to buck them. You see? Camping is a big issue. If you manage to achieve the camp off the ambush and buck the raptors off the fight, would be the same as it is now, and you would have bucked one raptor. Yeah. So basically, if you manage to get into a camping spot, this version of Pounce to Pin doesn't do anything, and now you're stuck with the bleeding. Whereas I prefer Pounce to Pin being a thing to avoid the camping in the first place. If you're good at fighting raptors in the open, Pounce to Pin hopefully won't affect you that much. And if it does, trust me, I will be one of the first people to say that maybe we need to nerf this, you know, or change it a bit. So, with the first idea, the raptors can actually punish you heavily before you get to a camping spot. This one doesn't. Now, the only dinosaurs that will be able to camp really effectively will be Dibble and Stego, as Dibble's kit is very defensive and can function in an open area, but becomes nearly oppressive when backed into a corner. Once again, camping is less the fault of the player, but rather the way the environment interacts with playables. If raptors needed to be ran into objects to be knocked off, then even if you camped, you would be able to be punished, and hence the player would learn and improve. As camping is prevalent, it makes it so the player does not need to A, learn how to avoid fights, and B, how to use your dinosaur in a fight/escaping situation effectively. Furthermore, we have to answer the base questions, which is, if the devs have made it with Pounce to Pin that X amount of raptors is equal to 1 Y dinosaur, then is it fair that if ambushed, that dinosaur dies? For example, if a Carno is equal to 3 raptors and a Carno ambushes the raptors, is it fair that the Carno charges and insta-kills one of the raptors and then camps its kill if the raptors try and fight it? Is it fair that if a raptor tries to 1v1 a player and that player loses less stamina bucking than the raptor loses while pouncing, such that they can get the raptor to 0% stamina and kill it? Or even if the raptor is killing you from bites, that you can just turn in place and trade and win? A survivor game like the R will reward you for understanding the game and, more importantly, understanding your dinosaur. There are things that your dinosaur cannot do, and you can push that limit or even underperform. Remember, you can do less than what the devs think you can do. You can play a Stego and die to a Dryo. Unlikely, but it could happen. Is Dryo now magically OP? We would agree with a no. So remember, as much as we can have very, very sweaty players who can vastly outperform the majority of other players, there are also players who will vastly underperform against the majority of other players. And it is my dream to one day be able to take the players who are underperforming and, with all of you guys' help, teach those players how to perform as the average player. And then the game will feel a lot much smoother for a lot of people. However, if a mechanic is set such that it breaks the intended idea that the devs have, then it is OP or broken. So, example, mutations. With the example of mutations, the devs want you to heal. Taking damage in a fight is a risk you have to take. Being able to remove that risk breaks the game. You know, what is the point of taking damage if I can just go and instantly heal off that damage? You see what I mean? It breaks the purpose of needing to sit to heal. You see? The devs seem to encourage ambush-based play, not epic PvP brawls, but smart, concise, and opportunistic gameplay. For example, Carno. You get way more, instead of just slamming into a Tenno at point-blank range and knocking it over, instead you need to hit it from a longer distance, which obviously does need to be buffed a bit, but you see my idea. The idea is that the devs seem to be pushing the game towards a style of fighting out in the plains is less advantageous. It is actually herbivores that want to be out in the plains. It is carnivores that want to be hiding around, instead of what we have right now, which is carnivores in the plains and the herbivores hiding around. But of course, with dinosaurs like Dibble and Stego, they don't really care. They will be out in the field. Even Tenno will be out in the field. But you see my idea. Hence, these abilities that have lots of counters outside of the ambush are very powerful if they catch the dinosaur off guard. So Carno Charge, Dino Lunge. As I said before, I believe that Pounce to Pin should be strong, as raptors are inherently weaker in a group. Dino and Carno go in and out of the danger zone using their ability or setup. Raptor needs to stay in place. Right? If this is a Carno, the Carno can go in, charge, and leave. Dino can go in, bite, leave, envenomate you. Raptor needs to stay close to you. It needs to stay on, which means versus a group, there is counterplay. For a Carno in a group, a Carno can position itself correctly and catch you off guard and then charge through one of you, and the other one can't defend it, you see? And the third way to do Pounce to Pin is based off of damage and bleed. So my idea was first, what if your health dropped to the health of the raptor? It's some weird weight thing. And how much health would each dinosaur need to lose? It's not worth it. Then I thought, well, if you get to the wounded status, so I calculated how much damage you need to take to wounded, and effectively what it really does, if you do Pounce to Pin based off of damage, all it means is that the smaller dinosaurs get cucked way harder than the bigger dinosaurs. The bigger dinosaurs don't really care now, because they can actually afford to take that damage and eventually wait and punish you. It doesn't really work properly. So we could make a system where the target's health is taken into consideration. We could do this with a ratio of health to weight, where per percentage of health lost, there is a percentage weight that equals the raptor. Hence, the pack will need to lose 50% health to equal the raptor's 450 health. Even as the raptors are in a group, the percentage of health needed to be lost will remain the same. I don't like this idea personally, but I was trying to think of something really, really unique, which is the idea of you bring the raptor to its level, and then it pins you. But as you can see here, if a stego's got 450 health left, it's probably already dead. It's probably already taken so much bleed damage that it will die. So, making it so that the dinosaur's health remains equal to the raptors, it balances the mechanic across all dinosaurs, because it's now just equal. It's equal playing field. However, it does have issues. The devs are wanting the raptor to take on large game in a group, and having to take more health from a large game will incentivize raptors to gang up on smaller targets, as large game can not only group, but can also camp the environment, which creates a less fun dynamic. Hence, the health lost is not that good. I have given an extreme example, but it could be the wounded status that triggers at 50%. That causes the same thing. By comparing the health to 450 and health to wounded, we find that lower health dinosaurs become more tanky towards Pounce to Pin, while the larger creatures become less tanky to Pounce to Pin. As you see here, taking my really stupid off-the-wall idea versus health to wounded, less health needed, more health needed. But this is an illusion, because this is equal to 3.8 bytes to get you down to wounded on a packy. We don't even need to know how many bytes. It's a lot more bytes. Let's there go. So obviously, the issue is that most raptors would just play the bleed game and not use Pounce to Pin. I mean that either A, Pounce to Pin would never be used, as you can take them down with bleed, or B, bleed does not matter, as a group can just Pounce to Pin. Which is why I'm saying that Pounce to Pin shouldn't be related to things like health, bleed, or just health and bleed. Because if I'm going to trigger Pounce to Pin when you're already in a situation where you would have bled out anyways, all I'm doing is wasting more stamina to kill you a tiny bit faster. And obviously, if I waste all of my stamina, so let's say this thing gets Pounce to Pin and it dies, we can change its color to grey to indicate dead, and then a Carno shows up, these raptors have no stamina, and a Carno's now shown up. They're going to die. There's a huge risk to Pounce to Pin. It's a huge risk-reward thing. Do you sacrifice, as I said here, on average, 50% of your health to pin the dinosaur and kill it, when they could be in a group, or when another dinosaur could show up, especially Cerados, for example. If a Cerado shows up, it now has more health. It now needs, even though you can pin it, with 3 pin slots, assuming only 3 raptors, it actually tanks the Pounce to Pin damage, and then mauls you to death. You see? You could say, oh, but you could always have more raptors. Yeah, you can also have more of these dinosaurs. So it balances out, right? By saying that, yeah, but you could have 5 raptors versus a Cerado, and then you kill it. Or 6 raptors versus a Cerado, so it guarantees dies. Well, what if they have 2 Cerados? You pin that Cerado with body buff. I guess you could pin both of them, I suppose, but now they both have body buff, they both appear. But do you see what I mean? It becomes more and more confusing the more variables you start to add in. The way I would rather it be is that bleed has more counters than instant Pounce to Pin, which is true. There's way more ways to manage your bleed and to stop the raptors from applying more bleed than the very, very high octane gameplay that would be preventing a Pounce to Pin. If your target plays well to avoid Pounce to Pin and manages their bleed, then it is up to the raptors to find a way to keep the bleed going, or pressure whatever the condition for Pounce to Pin is to activate it. So effectively, if you are able to manage the idea of Pounce to Pin, then you can also therefore manage your bleed, and effectively the raptors will be forced to bleed you out instead of Pounce to Pinning you. And if you're able to play the bleed game well, then you can actually beat the raptors. Which is why I don't actually mind this idea here, where Pounce the Pin is activated when you don't buck and when you can't buck. So either when you don't click E to buck and when you don't know how to buck. But I think the devs and the community will need to teach every single player that E is to buck. As well as the strategy I told you here, which is if that is the case, then you let one raptor pounce you. Or what you do is that you just run straight to a camping spot. Right? So effectively what we have now is a Pounce the Pin, but you can still camp. I don't really like, you know, because just, you know, unless of course the devs make camping less powerful in terms of the terrain. So you actually need to run into the terrain to get rid of raptors. You can't just wiggle them off. You have to be near the object so you can still get pounced and slowly but surely whittled down. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. And obviously, Pounce the Pin being based on bleed is a bad idea. As I said before, raptors should be able to choose between bleed to kill you or use stamina to kill you fast. Both have downsides. Going slow with bleed gives more chances to mess up or for the state of the fight to change. So effectively, the longer a fight lasts for, the higher chance of you making a mistake. Furthermore, the longer a fight lasts for, the more chance of that fight changing. So for example, the other dinosaur meeting a group member, a third party appearing and killing you and your teammates, low food, water, etc. All these things can change the state of play. You see? And Pounce the Pin ignores this. But of course, there is a risk, which is that you use a lot of stamina and you leave the raptors defenseless if something else shows up. You see? So even if you are fighting a solo target, if that solo target is in an area that has other carnivores or other herbivores, you could create a situation where you get the kill and then all the other carnivores show up and then kill the raptors. And that is even more food for them to eat. See? Basically, Pounce the Pin will be used versus a solo creature and bleed will be used against groups. All that we can theorize is how Pounce the Pin will activate. So those are my 3 ideas. And I want to see if you guys can come up with some other ideas of how Pounce the Pin can activate, so I can continue making Excel spreadsheets, and whether or not you guys agree with my analysis of what Pounce the Pin could be once it comes into the game. As always, this is a very, very long video, and I appreciate all of you guys who actually stick by and listen to me ranting. But I hope I can actually somewhat change the way some of you guys think about certain things, and in the same time, you guys can help change the way I think about certain things. Because some of you, I mean, trust, all my viewers might watch this video, listen to this, and be like, Turk, this is not it, Chief. This is a terrible idea. Which is fair enough. And things can be, as I've explained here, I've explained the idea of it being equal to your weight. I've done the math to see if you can actually end up pinning stegos, and you can't. So you have to make it 0.75 times, and you can pin stegos. So you could even make it like 0.6 maybe. 0.6 could work if you do this. I can't do the math, can I? Oh god. I'm sure you guys do. You know, you can even do it at 0.6. The stego needs to be at like 1% stamina. But then what's the point of Pounce the Pin if it's at 0% stam and then I pin it? You know, it doesn't really make sense. I think personally the devs are going to go with this approach, where Pounce the Pin is based off bucking, where if you don't buck the raptor, you get pinned. That doesn't really make sense. So it could be a tie of, if you don't buck, the timer for Pounce the Pin increases to 1. And when it hits 1, it pins you. And B, if you cannot pin, if you cannot buck, you cannot, prevent the pin. So effectively, as long as the devs create Pounce the Pin in such a way that the opponent is incentivized to buck you more, such that we can actually create chains of raptors getting onto you and you use more stamina, I'm fine. As long as Pounce the Pin is useful in either A, speeding up raptor kills, so it's not just 3 hours of just camping into Bleedfest, and 2, Pounce the Pin can actually be coordinated on an ambush and actually very, very efficiently kill something. I'm fine with both those. But anyways, as always, appreciate all of you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.